Why is it that you are here tonight? Was it family members who invited you? Maybe they drug you along. Maybe you're always here. This is where you come for Christmas Eve every year. It's part of your family tradition. Maybe you're here because whenever we have a service, you are here because you want to be a part of what we're doing as a congregation. There might be a number of reasons why you're here tonight. And I do wonder that, but beyond that, I want to ask that question and think about it differently. Not why are you here, like why are you in this place, but why are you here at all? Why does any of what we see in the world exist? Whenever we have a service like the candlelight service tonight, and we have a holiday like Christmas, a holiday that is so important that it shapes our entire cultural basically the whole cultural landscape, the culture that we live in, Christmas is one of the most important moments in our year. So why is that? What is it about this story that matters? And so we have to start at the beginning. We have to ask the question, okay, well, why is this a story that we tell every year? So this story can only be told if we start at the beginning, which is why we had these readings from Genesis today. It might not seem like a normal reading to have for Christmas Eve. Now, if you've been coming to our Christmas Eve service, like we've been having that reading for several years at least, but maybe you hadn't been to a Christmas Eve service before that ever had a passage from Genesis. Well, we get to start here because it tells us answers, or it provides answers to these important questions. And the first question is, well, why do we exist? And we hear right there from Genesis chapter 1 that God made the world. Now, this question is not about method. It's not about how God did it. It's why did he do it? Why did he make the world? And Genesis wants to tell us why. And then it talks about humans. In this passage, we see that humans are unique. So we sometimes feel that way. There's elements of our world that want to say, no, we're just animals like anything else. And yes, we are animals, but there is something about us that is unique. We aren't just any animal. We are the one animal, the one creature that God said, I make you in my image. So here in a minute, we'll talk about what that means. But we see that we're made in this image, and then there's something else in that passage that we heard that God talked about. He looked at what he made, and he said, it is good. And now there's one place where he says, very good. Now, what that means is that the world that he made had order and purpose. And because it had order and purpose, it had harmony. Everything worked the way it was supposed to. There was a symbiotic relationship that went on in creation, and everything worked just like it was supposed to. It was a well-oiled machine. It ran without any hitches. So that was the way that God made the world. And then into this world, he made us humans in his image. Now, there's another way that this word that is image is used in the Old Testament. So if you've been around church, you've probably heard it. It's right up here, and it says you shouldn't have a graven image. Now, sometimes if you know the Ten Commandments, it'll say you should not have idols. Now, the word idol and image here, they're the same word, because really it's the same concept. We were made to be God's image in the world. What that means is that we reflect and we represent him in the world. That was what it means to be human. This is why we are not just any creature, but the culmination and the greatest of all God's creation. We were created to rule with him as his representatives. And so yes, that means that we were all made to be kings and queens. We were made to be royal, empowered to rule on God's behalf. It's like if you've ever had to get a power of attorney for anything. Maybe you're putting a will together and you need a power of attorney if there's a situation and you have that person. It's really important to be wise about the person you pick for power of attorney, right? Because they will be representing you if you're not able to represent yourself in very important decisions. And so that's what God did when he made us. He put us in the world to be his royal representatives, to rule on his behalf. That's why we are drawn to things that are spiritual. That is why we like to create, why we love beauty, why we see the world in the way we see it. Because God instilled this into us. And he instilled into us this desire to seek wisdom and to seek life. So in that story, there's those trees, right? And there's the one tree, which is the tree of life. But that's the life that God offers us. But there is a second tree, the knowledge of good and evil. In life, there's always that tree. The question of what is the decision I'm going to make? And what's going to inform that decision? And so for the man and the woman, they had to make a choice. Are they going to be their own guides, their own gods, or are they going to follow God, the one who made them? That was the invitation. This is just like our life. We have decisions we have to make every day. And so the big question then becomes, okay, well, if God made this world to be with order, purpose, and harmony, to be this symbiotic relationship between humans and creation and all that we see, well, then why isn't that the life we experience? And this is why the Christmas story is so important. Because humans said, you know what, we're going to figure this out on our own. We're going to make our own way instead of following God's way. We're going to make our own path instead of following the path he's already put there for us. Because, maybe he doesn't actually have our best interests in mind. Maybe this serpent is right, and he's hiding something from us that we rightfully deserve. And so they say, we're going to go this way. And once that happens, everything comes crashing down. The harmony is broken. And what we see is God actually holding everything together so that it doesn't come crashing down completely. And then he says, I will make a way to make this world whole again. And that's what the story of Christmas is all about. He's going to make a way. He's going to find a solution to the human brokenness in the world. He's going to find a solution, and he's going to provide that solution. So we can't tell the story of Christmas without understanding why Jesus had to come. And he had to come because we messed everything up. But God had a plan. And so today we're going to hear about this plan. We don't even have time to hit all of those passages like I would like. But what we see in this Isaiah passage is we're in the middle of a story that starts with people. Specifically, a certain set of people, the family of Abraham. So if you know the story of Abraham a little bit, you know that God shows this man Abraham, and he says, I'm going to bless you and bless your family. And your family will then bless the nations. So Abraham's family is the way that God is going to make the whole world whole again. He's going to have a relationship with this one family. And the idea being that this family can learn to live his way again. That path that humans had left for their own, he wanted to show them that path. And hopefully get a glimmer of that garden harmony again. The harmony of the garden before the man and the woman took the fruit. That's what Israel is supposed to be, this place where the harmony comes back. This place where the world starts to be good again. And so he chooses Abraham's family. That family becomes a nation, and eventually they have their own land and their own kings. And if you know the story, you know things don't go well. They go really bad. And what we just heard read tonight was from Isaiah. So in Isaiah, things are particularly bad. There's, at this point, Israel is split into two kingdoms, the north called Israel, the south called Judah. They can't get along. They're both they've lost their way. There's more powerful nations from the north that are wanting to take over, and they're starting to send armies. And the king of Judah is the southern kingdom. He is in a lot of trouble because there's a couple armies from the north that want to come and take over Jerusalem. But in the midst of all this, Isaiah talks about light coming into darkness. And he talks about a child that will be born that will bring light to God's people again. Now, in Isaiah, that was a little bit about one of his sons who would hopefully offer some hope. But then later what we see is it's actually about this other figure that the Hebrew Bible talks about called the Messiah. And the Messiah is just the one who has been anointed, the one who has been sent by God as his anointed representative, this new king who's going to come and lead the world. And this king is not going to just rule Israel, but all of the nations will be able to return to him and find that way. And so that's what is announced in Isaiah, that there's this hope of a king who will come to set the whole world free. And so at this point in the story, we're waiting with the people of Israel for this Messiah to be born. The question we ask, will this Messiah come? When and who will it be? So the question that remained still is, when would this anointed king be born? Who would it be? When would it be? And as we just heard read, the claim that we make as followers of Jesus is that he is that Messiah. He is the one we were waiting for. He was the one who's going to come to rule the world and make things whole again. But what's interesting about Jesus is his beginning. So he's born a king, but he's not born with a kingly birth. He's born among animals. He's not born in a palace. He's not born into an important family. He's born actually into probably a very poor family that was not important at all. He was born in a situation that would not make you think he was a king. And yet he is the one we were all waiting for. And when he's born, the shepherds hear this message from these messengers in the heavens. The Messiah has been born. You will find him lying in a manger. He's the one who will save his people. This Messiah was born, and with him comes life, light, and the promise of peace. Now you might be wondering, well, I look around and I don't see peace still. And all I can say to you is, this is the beginning of the story of Jesus, his birth. If you want to hear that whole story, you got to go with us through Epiphany, through Lent, at least until Easter. And then you can hear that story about, if it's not completely peaceful yet, why not? Well, that's something we talk about along the journey. But right now what we see is that the Messiah has come. Jesus came to make things great again. That's the hope of the Christmas story. Though things might not always be great now, they will get better because that's why he came. Jesus came to make things great again. He comes to bring peace on earth, to unite people, to set captives free, to feed the hungry, to heal the sick. He comes to defeat evil and to bring harmony back, the harmony that we lost in the garden. Jesus came to make things great again. That's what he came to do. That's the story of Christmas. So my question to you, do you believe that story? Does that seem like a story worth learning more about? Like I said, this is the birth. We have a lot more of that story to tell between now and Easter. I invite you to join us on that journey if you want to learn more about it. But what we do tonight is we're going to light candles in the darkness and pass that light of life that Jesus brought to the world. We live in a world of darkness, but he comes to bring light because Jesus came to make things great again. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to light first the Christ candle. This is an Advent wreath, and every week of Advent, there's 4 weeks, we light one candle. And now we're going to finally get to light this one in the middle, this white one, which is the Christ candle, we light